Welcome to Celtics Rundown. I'm your host, Bobby Krivitsky, and joining me today to help fans get more familiar with draft prospects in Boston's range, they have picks 28 and 32nd overall, is Matt Babcock from Babcock Hoops. Matt, thanks for taking the time to join me.
Hey, Bobby. Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Really excited to have you on, an ideal guest for this time of year. Matt has worked as a scout, an NBA draft analyst, a certified NBPA and FIBA agent, and an advisor, among other roles that he has starred in. And Matt, where I want to start before we do a deep dive into all these prospects that fans should get familiar with is from an agent's perspective. What is draft day like? What is that experience? I would imagine that it's pretty chaotic.
It really depends on who your clients are. I think if you're representing Cooper Flagg, you're feeling pretty good. Chances are he's going number one. And then I think the further you go down the list, probably the more stressful it gets. Or some players might have guarantees or sort of backstop picks. Others are going to draft night sort of fingers crossed. And so I think there's sort of a wide range, of the level of control that agents and players will have depending on how the pre-draft process went. But it's any way you split it, it's an exciting night for these players, these parents, and the agents for that matter.
Whether it's as a scout, an agent, an advisor, when you think about the draft, excuse me, are there any particular memories or experiences that come to your mind immediately that you associate with the draft?
Not necessarily. I've seen it from all different angles, and obviously, you listed off, my professional experience, which I'm kind of just tired to even think about all the different things I've done in my career. But I grew up in it as well. My dad and my uncles have all been, general managers and executives in the NBA. So I was a fly on the wall in war rooms when I was in high school and early on in college, and so many different memories. But any way you split, it's exciting for everybody. Including the executives and the franchises and ownership and fan bases. It's my favorite day of the year. And what's great now is we have it 2 days in a row. It's not one long night. And but yeah, no, sorry, I know I'm not answering your question directly, but it's just,
no, it's all good.
It's just very exciting all the way around. And as an agent, sort of being able to be in the inner circle with players and parents. And see their dreams come true. I think that's a really thrilling part of it. And I've been on the flip side of that as well, where we had guys we thought would get drafted and slip between the cracks, and we had to kind of scramble to find them summer league spots or two-way contracts. So yeah, just a very, very emotional roller coaster type of process. But yeah, I'm lucky to have seen it, pretty much my entire life from so many different angles.
Yeah, and what a treat as a kid growing up and in high school to be in war rooms and get that experience. I'm sure to some extent that familiarity, immersing yourself at an early age, paid dividends down the line professionally. And as we start to look ahead here into this deep dive, where I want to start is actually not pertaining to the Celtics directly. And that is that there was a report the other day from Dane Moore, who covers the Timberwolves and hosts the Dane Moore NBA podcast. And he said that Minnesota's president of basketball operations, Tim Connolly, said in the organization's mind, they don't see a lot of separation between 17 and 31 in this draft. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think you could argue it player to player, but I think that range is pretty solid. I think the drop off comes pretty quickly after that. And one thing when we do get to the Celtics, I think these teams draft in the late first round, early second round, depending on where you looked at the drop off being, it's somewhere in there. And a big part of that is so many of these kids deciding to go back to school because of NIL. And the depth of the draft is just really, really suffering this year because of it. And so the second round is just not nearly as loaded with talent as it has been in years past. But generally speaking, I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, just as far as the impact of NIL, Brad Stevens has noted that it certainly changes the perspective on this year's draft and moving forward figures to have a significant impact. Looking at the Celtics now at 28, is there a dream scenario? And I'll let you cheat here. You can include a few prospects to make it easier, but in an ideal scenario, who in your mind is on the board when the Celtics come on the clock if they stand pat?
It's funny, and again, I'm going to tiptoe around your question here. I don't think there is a dream scenario, really. Realistically speaking, a lot of it's just, who falls between the cracks, right? And and I think one thing that's interesting when you're drafting late first round, early second round is you need to do your homework on a wide range of players. Because if guys do slip, and it happens every year, you need to have the answers as to why they slipped. Is there something that we're missing, right? I mean, that'd be the question I'd be asking myself. Do we have all the medical information that we need on this player? And if we do, great. If not, that's potentially a red flag to not select a guy. So I think they're in an interesting space for a number of different reasons. Obviously, Jason Tatum's injury in their salaries, create just really an interesting situation, a unique situation where you've got a great team in place, but your star player goes down and it's going to be out for a long time. They're going to have to clean up that roster, and so I don't see them being your typical team drafting in the late 20s. As a probably a plug and play type situation to help contribute to winning a championship. I think they're going to have to retool their roster altogether, which makes it really hard to project, who they would select at 28 and 32. In addition to just the scenario of not knowing which players are going to be there.
And then as we start to do this deep dive here, I want to begin with the guy who might be the man of mystery in this class, and that is Cedric Howard.
Yeah, sure. Cedric's such an incredible story. Played at a D3, transferred to Washington State. He came into the season just, guns blazing. He was incredible. However, he only played 6 games. He got hurt, season-ending injury. Fortunately, I can't remember what the injury is exactly, but he's cleared to play already. And word is that his name is buzzing among draft circles and among teams. I've heard his name, even discussed in the lottery. I'm not confident that's where he'll go, but his name is circulating as a legit first round pick right now, which is just, really an inspiring story.
Yeah, and that's someone who you talk about NIL earlier, almost went back to Duke. People weren't sure would he ultimately withdraw from this draft, but he stays in. I'm excited about it. As a Celtics team that needs options, I'm sure they were pleased with that outcome. And then another player who feels like he definitely could legitimately be in play for Boston is Maxime Reynaud, the 7-footer from Stanford, who became the first major conference player to average at least 20 points and 10 rebounds with more than 50 made threes in a season since Kevin Durant did it in 2006, 2007. What do people need to know about his game?
Yeah, he's actually a guy I had penciled in as an option for them if he's there at 28 or 32. And he would be a great fit. All these guys, even the guys that spent 4 years in college, or in some cases 5 or 6, they're still young guys from an NBA lens, right? And so I think Maxime's a perfect example of that. He's older for this draft, seasoned college player, but a guy that could probably contribute right away, but could be a long-term piece as well. He's 7 feet tall, provides rim protection, but he also shoots the ball pretty well from outside. So I do think he would fit how the Celtics like to play. And I think great option. Another guy that kind of falls into that category is Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton. Similar type situation. Big bodied 5, rim protector, finishes at the rim, but it also is capable of stepping outside and shooting the 3 and providing the floor spacing for guys like Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown to operate. And two guys that I definitely would have as strong options for the Celtics if they do and indeed stay at those picks.
Yeah, I'm trying to make people aware of Reynaud, but I think a lot of Celtics fans have gravitated towards Kalkbrenner because he's Baylor Shireman's former collegiate teammate. And so I think there's an inherent familiarity with him on the part of Celtics fans. This is a team that, speaking of Shireman, between him and Anton Watson, they drafted older prospects last year, and they weren't sure that Shireman would be available. I think they understood the reasons why, but he fit the mold of the type of skill set that they look to bring into their environment and are quite happy with that decision to select him last year. And so is it realistic that they might go that route again and take a super senior like Nick Clifford?
Yeah, if he's there, and Nick's another guy. His name is just, throughout the entire season, is just gained momentum, in regards to his draft stock. And my bet would be he's not there at 28. But if he were, yeah, I think he would be a great option. Just a guy. And, I live in Colorado. He started his career at the University of Colorado and then transferred to Colorado State. So I've been watching him closely for years now, and just a total growth mindset type of player. And it's gotten better every year because of it. And I think he would absolutely fit the Celtics culture, and just essentially a guy that can be plugged in everywhere. He's a very versatile wing, very athletic, good defender. Handles the ball, passes the ball, just checks a lot of boxes. And I think he could be a very effective complementary player. And his shooting has come around, slowly but surely too.
Yeah, he's a prospect I fell in love with studying. I mean, even as a weak side rim protector, he's just awesome. Some of the plays that he makes. So between that, his facilitating, and everything he brings to the table, I'm with you. I don't think he makes it to 28, but that's going to be under strong consideration for the Celtics if he does. I'm curious now to get your outlook on a tournament darling, a national champion, and that is Walter Clayton Jr. and what you project for him at the next level.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think his situation is very similar to Nick Clifford's, guy that, we were aware of from the get go, and just, really chipped away throughout the season. Obviously they had, really, Cinderella story type season, winning the whole thing, and him, playing so well in March. And so, I think his stock, really is peaked at the right time. And, my expectation is that he will be a first round pick. And I'm not certain he'll be there at 28 either. And if he is, yeah, absolutely another guy that I think every team in that range will take a look at, because he's can be looked at as a hired gun. I mean, he's ready to step in and hit shots day one. And I think shooting, especially for the Celtics and how they like to play, outside shooting comes at a premium. And so a tough, proven guy that's hit shots at a high volume on a really big stage, that is undeniable.
From an actual guard to a 7-footer who plays like one, that is Michigan's Danny Wolf, a unique talent with impressive playmaking and ball handling skills for someone his size. When you size up his game, what's your evaluation?
He's a tricky one. I think, part of it is he's very unique. I mean, a 7-footer that plays like a guard. I mean, he's put it on the floor, dropping one-handed dimes, no look passes, shooting threes off the dribble. I think, it kind of depends. Are you looking at him glass half full or glass half empty? And I see the upside. And my question, if I'm looking at it negatively or, being devil's advocate on the evaluation, is he good enough in the NBA to do those things with the ball in his hand? Are coaches going to let him do those things and be in a role to do it? And I think that's where he needs to find the right fit. He needs to, produce at a decent rate early, and have a coach and a coaching staff that believes in him. But I do think he is somewhat polarizing because of those things. But definitely, high level talent that I truly do see the upside. Just some question marks as far as things need to kind of fall in place for him to really tap into that potential.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then another a player that I want to get your opinion on for sure, because Babcock Hoops has Boston selecting Rasheer Fleming with the 28th pick in the draft. What should fans know about the stretch big with a pterodactyl-like 7'5" wingspan?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. So he, great size. 6'8", 7'5" wingspan, and really just kind of checks a lot of boxes of being a complementary player. I mean, does your blue collar big man type stuff, but he shoots the ball, is a terrific team defender that covers space and is versatile, and really, just kind of does some things that translate to the modern NBA very well. And again, especially Boston with how they like to play so spread out and shooting so many threes and having some versatility defensively. And so, yeah, if he were there at 28, which is not a lock either, I think another guy that could be a good option. And like I mentioned before, it's a little bit unpredictable as far as who will be in the late first or early second. But yeah, all these names we're mentioning, I do think these are the guys they're probably going to have on their big board. And when they're on the clock, whoever's there, they'll probably need to decide from.
And Matt, a player who, between the situation he was in and just his age alone at 19, it might be hard for teams to really get a strong handle on, and that is Hugo Gonzalez. His playing time was inconsistent for Real Madrid last season, but again, at his age, his upside, the playmaking flashes you see, the defensive versatility, and his motor, these could all help him go in the first round. What's your read on Gonzalez?
Yeah, I think you had really great points. He played at Real Madrid, very inconsistent, minutes and opportunities, which makes it a hard evaluation, honestly. But he does have some things that really translate to the NBA and in modern NBA well. He's a 6'6", sort of do-it-all kind of player. He's a good athlete. well-rounded skill set. I mean, sort of like a 2-3-1. And so a guy that's young, that has some upside, that has a game that translates well with that versatility. And so, yeah, another guy that I like in that range quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely another international prospect that I would imagine the Celtics will take under serious consideration if he makes it to them at 28. And I'm curious to get what you've seen from Ben Saraf, the 6'6" guard who spent the season playing for Ulm in Germany.
Yeah, he's a jumbo playmaker and very crafty. I mean, it's easy to get excited about him, when he's got the ball in his hands, making plays. And on the flip side, is a little questionable defensively, which I think some coaches will magnify those issues more than others, or front offices for that matter. And so a little bit more polarizing than I think a guy like Hugo Gonzalez, even though they're probably penciled into the same draft range. But yeah, what Ben does well, very, very much stands out. Just defensively, that's the one big question mark.
One of the takes that I've seen circulating is that Noah Penda is one of the biggest sleepers in this draft. Do you agree with that? And what do fans need to know about Penda?
Yeah, no, a very interesting player, and and I think I find myself saying versatility quite a bit. I mean, I just think outside shooting, defensive versatility, just versatility in general. I think things that are prioritized now more than ever. And Noah Penda fits that as well. I mean, different than some of these other guys we're talking about. He's more of a hybrid forward, but a switchable on defense. I think he guard fours, threes, some twos, maybe even some small ball fives. And it just kind of checks a lot of boxes. And so when we're talking about guys in the late first, early second, keep in mind a lot of these underclassmen that had more of upside are going to be back in college next year. And so I think the narrative is shifting quite a bit in most cases of guys that are more ready to play. Even though some of these international guys are young, I do think that the focus is shifted a little bit than it has been in years past, where you're kind of taking swings on really young guys. Noah's produced at a high level in France, which is a very good league, and so I do think he's got room for growth. But he's a guy that's proven he could step in and play probably right away or in the near future.
And as you mentioned at the top of the show, the Celtics might need to reset the deck, so to speak, take a step back this season to ultimately have more long-term flexibility. And so that and some opportunities that could suddenly be afforded to younger players lends itself to the idea of, should they want to select someone who is even raw by prospect standards and players of this age? What's your outlook with that in mind on Adu Thoreau, a superb athlete, a great motor, but again, a very raw game?
Yeah, no, he's got some interesting attributes. I mean, terrific athlete, plays with a great motor, like you mentioned. I mean, I think the outside shooting is definitely his swing skill. And then, I mean, if you're asking the question of, okay, what role does he fill? I mean, to me, he's an undersized sort of, face up four. But he measured only 6'6", 218 at the combine, which is very small for that style of player. But I mean, you can't deny his athleticism. I'm curious to see if a team that takes him, if they want to gradually develop him into more of a big wing or 3-4, if you will. But yeah, definitely an athlete that skill set and those attributes definitely translate.
Matt, I don't think this next player will make it to the Celtics, but enough of the viewers, they messaged me, they wanted me to ask you about this player, and that is Thomas Sorber. But if he does fall, what would you tell Celtics fans about the Georgetown center, who, one of the things I enjoyed watching him is that players will just bounce off him at times before he blocks their shot?
Yeah, I think you're spot on in regards to him being a guy that likely won't get the 28. But if he were, yeah, that'd be a home run pick. Big bodied 5, but he's smooth and he's skilled, and very excited about him. I think he's a guy, even though the NBA has gone away, from like low post isolation action in most cases, I think there's a way of a guy like Sorber to get his stuff in the flow of the game, and I do think he's shown flashes of being able to shoot the ball a little bit. And this guy, he's going to be a good player. I think the natural skill level, footwork and touch, are translatable skills. He sort of reminds me of Onyeka Okongwu a little bit with the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, very, very good player. I'm probably would lean to him being more of a mid first round pick rather than late. I think I've got him in the early 20s right now. But if I were to lean one way or the other, I think he'd be more on the high side.
Yeah, I also like the Okongwu comp right there. I definitely see that as well. A player that Babcock Hoops has mocked to the Celtics at 32 is Drake Powell. What can you tell fans about the UNC wing who went one and done?
Yeah, I mentioned some of these young underclassmen are going back to school. Drake Powell sort of the exception this year, a guy that I expected to go back, and sort of grab that NIL bag, and for whatever reason he decided to stay in. He was a guy that came out of high school, 5-star prospect, and played in a pretty limited role at Carolina, which frustrated me as an evaluator. I wanted to see him out there a little bit more, but I thought he did a great job. Even in a limited role, he shot the ball well. Which that was considered his swing skill. But this guy is just a big time athlete. Plays with a high motor. I think he's got a chance of being a very good perimeter defender. And he's got sort of a foundation of offensive skills to develop on. And so I think if he were there at 28 or 32, and they're wanting to kind of get some young pieces in it with some upside, he might be one of the few options that falls into that category of like maybe he's not ready to play a ton right away, but 3, 4, 5 years from now, does he have a chance of developing into being one of the better players from this draft? Yeah, I think he does have a chance to do that.
He is Matt Babcock. He's lived a life in basketball and does exceptional work for Babcock Hoops. Matt, I want to give you the floor now to plug any of that work, promote the site, your social media handles, let everyone know where they can find you and what they should check out.
Yeah, no, thanks, Bobby. It's not just myself. We've got a full team of scouts that have been working year round. We've got full scout reports on pretty much every draft prospect. And we're creating all different types of content, all mostly draft related and all basketball related. And it's BabcockHoops.com. And then you can follow us on all the different social media platforms at Babcock Hoops, and then myself personally at Matt Babcock 11. And so this is our time to shine. We do research all year. In the month of June, everybody wants to talk about the draft, so it's our time to celebrate our work.
Well, definitely people whose work deserves being celebrated. So everyone out there, go ahead and check him out on social media. Check out the team at Babcock Hoops and the exceptional job they do, especially around draft coverage. That wraps up this edition of Celtics Rundown. For Bobby Krivitsky, we will be back same time, same date next week. That is Wednesday, noon Eastern. Thank you for tuning in.